Hey everyone, it's John from CarCraft, and here's what's happening at the Ware home today. So my dog Culver is diligently standing guard over our Blueprint Engine's 540 cubic inch big block Chevy crate engine, and we're getting ready to drop this thing into Project Truck Norris, our 67 C10 pickup. And we've completed the EFI conversion on this engine. So basically this is an engine we've had for a couple years. We got it from Blueprint in 2011, ran it with the Dominator carburetor, and it made 700 horsepower. And so AEM had approached us a while ago at SEMA, about a year ago, wanted to do a fuel injection system on something that would, kind of make a splash. So we're like, well, how about a 700 horsepower big block? And so they liked the idea, and we pieced together a system, and we just got it running 3 weeks ago at West Tech. We ran them back-to-back, configured as you see it. So with this manifold and everything, we went from a carburetor, ran it that way, took the carburetor off, put a throttle body on it, plugged in all the injectors, fired up the computer, and ran it again. And the EFI version actually made a couple more horsepower than the carburetor did, which really isn't what we're after. That's not what I necessarily cared about. We wanted to show basically what's involved with getting a port fuel injection system running on something like this that doesn't really have a kit available for it. So it was basically the piecing together the parts, tuning it on the engine dyno, and the fact that it actually did make a little bit more horsepower, which by a little bit I mean about 10. So statistically it's a wash. But anyway, the fact that it made as much as it did, even a few more than the carburetor, is kind of a bonus. And it basically comes down to probably just the precision in the air-fuel ratio and timing that the EFI can do over a carburetor. But anyway, so it made 716 horsepower just 3 weeks ago. But the real story is going to be when we get this thing into a vehicle and running, because AEM's Infinity fuel injection system will do a lot of sophisticated things like traction control or coil on plug ignition with individual cylinder timing. It'll do boost controllers if you've got an electronic nitrous timer or electronic wastegates, and flex fuel, so you can plug in a sensor to your fuel lines and switch from E85 to gasoline or anywhere in between, and the computer will react on the fly and deliver the right amount of fuel if that's what you want to do. So we're going to test all that stuff and see how it does in Truck Norris here. And so to get ready for all that, I've spent the last about 2 weeks working with this mock-up block. And this is one of those plastic blocks you can buy, for fiberglass blocks you can buy from Summit Racing, getting this thing mocked up. So basically this was a small block. We had a 383 in it the last time, and these are the frame stands for the small block, which are different from the big block. So I needed to get big block frame stand, big block motor mounts, and that took a little bit of time. And then once I got all that, got the engine block dropped in there with the headers that we want to use. And these are 2-inch primary tube headers from Hedman, full-length long tube headers for C10s of this era. They fit really well over here on the driver's side. I had to trim some of the top channel on the frame on this side to get them to fit. The tubes actually stick out a little bit wider from the engine block on this side to make room for the starter. So got all that stuff mocked up in there, and it fits really well. Otherwise the engine does. There's no interference here at the heater box. Back there at the firewall, the distributor fits in here nicely, and valve covers to the firewall here are good as well. So there's no real issues there. This was a 4-speed truck from the factory, and that hole down there right next to the engine is where the mechanical linkage for the clutch came through. Now there's no way the mechanical linkage would work with this, with these headers, this exhaust setup. But that's not really a big deal, because part of this switch to the big block engine also includes going from the factory 4-speed, the Granny Gear 4-speed, to a much better, at least for drivability, a much better T56 Magnum 6-speed transmission from Trumik. and American Powertrain. So this is their conversion, American Powertrain's conversion with their crossmember and a hydraulic clutch setup. So the mechanical linkage is going to go away, and we'll be mounting a hydraulic clutch master cylinder and then a hydraulic throw-out bearing that actually goes through that opening right there in the bell housing. So I just got this all installed here last night. I had to trim a little bit of this cross member to get right there to get the transmission and the engine to mount up squarely together. But it's all in there, and it looks like it's pretty good. So what I'm going to do now is take all this stuff back out and reinforce these areas that I had to cut. So I'll basically just be boxing this cross member and the one section of the frame just nearest the frame stands for the motor mounts, and just to add some strength to that area that I had to do a little bit of trimming. We'll get that plated up and then drop the probably drop the real engine back in with the trans, make sure the driveline's correct, driveline angles are correct. And then once all that stuff is in, I'll measure for a drive shaft, which American Powertrain does include with their kit, their conversion kit. So it'll be a one-piece drive shaft, and I may have to clearance that a little bit, or at least get rid of the pedestal where the carrier bearing for the two-piece drive shaft used to be. So there's still a lot of work left to do, but we're getting closer.